Driver plows through a crowd of cyclists on Los Angeles street.
Mayhem on the streets. A frustrated driver in a white Mercedes plows through a crowd of more than 100 cyclists swarming an LA street. The bike riders swerve right and left to avoid being mowed down. The driver weaves around them, narrowly missing one after another.
Whoa,
look how close he is to taking out this guy popping a wheelie.
Hey, move! Hey, watch out!
A motorbike rider behind them shouts frantic warnings.
Watch out! Watch out!
The crazy scenes go on for nearly a mile as the speeding driver swerves into the oncoming lane and back again.
Hey, watch out! Watch out! Watch out!
Terrified cyclists pull over to the right and let him pass.
That's
This is
insane.
nuts. The footage is absolutely nuts. To be clear, both sides are doing something illegal. I mean, the cyclists were not in the right in terms of how they were taking the lane, but what that driver was doing was clearly endangering lives.
The LAPD is saying right now that there are no arrests or charges filed just yet.
The fact that they haven't filed any charges, I think, is kind of like one of those things where both sides are kind of committing a crime. You know what I mean? You got one side, which is kids, probably. I mean, the driver doesn't know that. He just knows that he's trying to get through traffic flow. And you have the kids or whoever it is on the bikes doing tricks and showing off each other and not having any consideration for the people that are riding down a very busy street in LA. So it's kind of like a double thing right there, and I think that's probably how they're looking at it and look at like it's probably more convenient for them to just let them, go both their separate ways. But what are y'all views on that right there? And accused in $1 million DoorDash scam in Connecticut is actually shot in New York. Let's get right into it.
Other news tonight, the former Stamford man who's accused of stealing almost $1 million in an elaborate DoorDash scam was shot to death Monday in New York. This came right before he was due in court in Stamford for a potential resolution in that case. Wow. News 12 Connecticut's Marissa Alter with the latest tonight.
David Smith was supposed to appear in Stamford Superior Court Wednesday morning to accept or reject a plea offer in his case. Instead, the state's attorney's office learned Smith was killed 2 days ago.
New Rochelle police found David Smith shot several times in the chest Monday morning at the Heritage Homes complex. Police said a personal dispute led to the 22-year-old's death. They've since arrested 4 men in connection.
Community members did help with this,
Stanford?
with calls to the police of the shots and descriptions of people running away.
Smith was living in Mount Vernon. He moved there after Stamford police arrested him in June 2023 in what one investigator called the most massive scheme he's seen. Smith is accused of scamming DoorDash drivers in California out of almost $1 million.
Wow.
Investigators recovered a large chunk of it, $733,000 in cash, when they seized 5 safes from his apartment. Police explained how the scam worked. They said Smith would use one of his many phones to place a fake DoorDash order in California. Then when the driver was on the way, Smith would impersonate DoorDash support and claim there was a problem with the order.
He would get them to click a link or go to a website, and then that essentially would turn over their credentials, their username and password to him. Once he was in control of that, he would change the billing information and steal any funds that they had for deliveries they had done, basically steal their paycheck.
More than 700 drivers were scammed over the course of 2.5 years. Police said Smith also stole the identities of dozens of people to open debit card accounts where he transferred the stolen money. Smith was considering a plea deal in the case at the time of his death. His decision to take the offer or go to trial had been expected at Wednesday's court hearing. The details of the deal weren't made public.
As for the over $700,000 in cash that was seized in this case, Stamford police still have that money. What happens to it and whether it will go to all the victims as restitution will be determined at a hearing in March. That's also when the charges against Smith will officially be dismissed. In Stamford, Marissa Alter, News 12.
When I hear about elaborate schemes and elaborate scams, I always think in my mind, like, why didn't he use this for something like positive? When I see him, as a father, he has a daughter, and, it's kind of like, wow, $750,000 in a house. You can do a lot with that, sir. You could have done a lot with that, and I feel that it shouldn't been found as a safe in the house. Only reason that it's found like that is because you don't feel comfortable doing anything with it because you've done so many wrong things with it. But, you know, ultimately, the way things play out, karma. You know, I don't know him. You know, rest in peace to his family. I know he's a father. Hopefully that money, that they don't just take all of it and, you know, remove it out of his possession, because he was not charged for anything. Well, he was charged, but they didn't, you know, sentence him for anything. So hopefully that money could be turned over to the child, at least, so the child could have a future. Hopefully they don't just keep it, you know, and that's usually what happens in these type of situations. So, woman murdered by fiance the night after the engagement. So this is insane. Let's get right into this.
It looks like your typical marriage proposal. The guy gets down on one knee and pops the question while holding up an engagement ring. Everyone in the bar cheers and the couple hugs. But police say the very next day, the man in this video, which was shared on Facebook, stabbed his fiancée to death. Officers were called to a New Jersey residence in response to a report of an alleged stabbing, the Union County Prosecutor's Office said. Investigators discovered the body of Naket Jadix Trinidad Maldonado. Jose Mello was charged with 1 count of first-degree murder and other charges. A GoFundMe was launched by the victim's aunt. So far, it's raised more than $27,000. Maldonado had 2 children who are now with family. Her father's wish is that her funeral be held in Florida and that she's buried near her home in Puerto Rico. This is Inside Edition Digital.
See, that's like weird. Number one, how do you propose to a woman and, you know, you get down on one knee and you're 20 years older than her? That's another thing. So it's kind of like you're already taking a risk dealing with the woman that's 31. But you do all of that. She says yes, the whole process, and you're telling me that something was that bad that required you to pick up a weapon and do that to her the next day. I just don't understand what your intentions was. Like, was your intentions good at any point? Because as a 51-year-old man, you should have better intentions at 51 years old. The woman didn't deserve that the day after engagement, bro. For that, y'all could have broke up the day before that engagement, and that would have been that. Move on your separate ways. People got to learn when it's not the right time. You know, maybe her saying yes, maybe it wasn't the right thing. Maybe she said yes for the moment, but it really wasn't a yes. You got to be realistic with what the situation is, whether you sincere or not. Just, yo, I'm not ready for this, or I am ready for this, and just be honest and put it on Front Street. You know, once again, rest in peace for our family. This is Rich House Crime. I wanted to tap into 3 different things. Make sure you guys let me know what y'all feel about these 3 different things. And if you like this type of content, just write more on the content so I know to do that. Other than that, I'm out of here.